Hello everyone, welcome to today's webcast. My name is Katherine Zech and I'll be moderating the panel. Today's panel is called Secrets for Advancing Your Career. Our goal for the next hour is to discuss some of the challenges that CPAs face in their first 10 years with a focus on 6 to 10 years. We've prepared some topics for discussion, but we hope that you'll submit your own questions so that you can join in. Why don't we start off by introducing ourselves? We can go down the table.
Thanks, Kate. My name is Chris DeMayo. I'm a partner at Witham, and I head up our firm's startup and emerging growth technology practice.
I'm Sarah Krom, and I'm the managing partner of SKC & Company CPAs in Boonton, New Jersey, and we focus primarily on consulting and tax services for entrepreneur business owners.
And I'm Michael VanderGoot, Director of Audit at BC Compliance Group. We're a small consulting firm that we primarily do contracts and lease audits.
So it looks like we have a varied panel here. I wanted to kind of begin by saying, what are some of the pros and cons that you guys have found in working in private firms versus public firms? What made you choose this career path and what makes you stick with it?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with that. I mean, I've never worked in private. When I first started my career, I really went right from college right into public accounting, and the genesis of that was really I wanted to learn a lot about companies. I was really inquisitive about understanding how they worked, and I thought in public I'd be able to see a pretty wide variety of different companies, different industries, learn a lot about how people do business. Because coming right out of school, as much as the academics of college are great, the real world's a little bit different. So that was the reason why I chose public, and I stayed there because of the fact that I really enjoyed the diversity in what I did, the people that I worked with, and the challenge from day to day on how everything was different.
Sarah?
So I'm spoiled, Kate, a little bit because my firm is pretty much a consulting firm, and so we do a lot of work with entrepreneur business owners on a monthly basis in their business. Sometimes we're CFO for hire for a short term. So it's a lot of diversity, like Chris said. We don't do any audits. I did grow up in audit land when I was a baby accountant, so that was a little bit more of a traditional CPA type practice. But now I have so much diversity. I enjoy the variety of clients that I get to see, the different industries, the different sizes, the different geography. They all have different issues, so there's something new to deal with every day. I did at one point consider going into private, and I had done some interviews with some private companies. And to me, it felt like it was going to be a lot of the same repetitive monthly close, nothing really that was going to be much different than being in just one company. And for me, that just didn't appeal to me.
How about you, Mike?
And for me, I started in a real estate company, and there was the monthly close, but at the end of the year, we had a lot of different changes and aspects because we constantly had new companies or new projects coming on board, and each company had its own, or each project had its own company. So I was able to meet with a lot of different people because of all the different types of partners that we had. Then, as my career progressed to the point where I'm now at a consulting company where I have a lot of different clients, and some of the issues are the same, but for me, I didn't have that normal busy season that I saw a lot of my friends having, and so I kind of stayed away from going into the public accounting. So my experience has all been on the private side, but where I'm at now is more diverse than just being at one company doing the same thing every month.
What are your opinions on working at large firms versus small firms? So how do you think the culture of firms fits in with your personality, and maybe give some advice to some of our people watching now on making the right choice for themselves? Anyone can take this?
I'll start. So I work in a small firm. We're under 30 people, and to me, I sort of always stayed in that space, even when I was at my previous firm. It's just what I preferred. I preferred a closer knit community. I think it affords a little bit different culture. It's a lot more intimate and family oriented, and I know the culture of my firm now is very much that same tight knit, team oriented. I think, and Chris can obviously speak better to this, in the larger firms, you probably get that on an office basis or on a department basis, which is good in and of itself, and there's certainly a lot of resources in larger firms. It was just, I think it's a preference. It's sort of like when you decide which college you're going to pick. You know, are you going to go to a 9,000 person school or a 100,000 person school? It's preference for a big part of it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, when I think about the history of my career, I started at a smaller firm. The firm was about 20, 25 people that actually got acquired by Witham, merged into Witham, Witham being an 800-person firm. And it's in many ways it's the same. In some ways it's very different. And I agree. I think it really just comes down to, you know, what your personal preference is as a person. The opportunities can be different. The clients could be different. Culture is probably the most important thing to think about. And the culture of a firm is to me the lifeblood of the firm. Whether or not a firm is successful is based on, in my opinion, how much it invests in its culture and its people, because people are what make up our practice. So I think when you look at a firm or you look at a company that you're thinking about working for, it may be less about, to me, the size of the company and more about the people that are there and what you're going to be doing and whether or not that intrigues you.
For me, I've worked for some large companies, but mainly small family-owned businesses and companies that are, you know, in the real estate industry, a lot of companies are family-owned, and then they expand out from there and they bring other partners in. But I did work for a company that had about 400 people, but every office, well, throughout the country, actually throughout the world, had its own maybe 20 people at the most. So I didn't really have that experience of having all of that interaction. For me, culture, again, I don't like to use the phone inside the office. If I need to call somebody or talk to somebody, I get up, I walk into their office and I speak to them. If I see they're busy, then I'll come back. I'm not a inter-office emailer. It's for me, unless it has to be documented, unless there's a reason why, I'd rather get up, walk over and speak to whoever I need to speak to. And at a small company, that forced me the ability to do that and have more of that face-to-face interaction, which I think is important, you know, communication-wise.
Do you think there was a turning point in any of your careers that made you stay this path and made you want to remain an accountant, remain a CPA?
There was for me. I worked for a company, it was a real estate company that was trying to become a REIT. And so they hired a lot of people in, and then when they realized they weren't going to do it, you know, some of the supervisors and things started to leave. After I left that company, I was working for another company for about a year. I really liked that work, but I left the company. That supervisor called me up and offered me a position as a controller. So I worked there for a long time, but it was a very long commute, and after 9/11, the commute became 2 hours each way. So it was just a little bit too much for my family life and you know, having kids. So I left that company. In less than a year, 2 other people that I had worked for at that original real estate company called me up and asked me to be their operating officer for this larger company. So that was my turning point. You never know the seeds you're going to plant at a company. And for me, you know, working at that firm really did propel my career.
I mean, for me, once I decided what my major was going to be in college and that it was going to be accounting and business, I knew that I wanted to be a partner in a CPA firm. I had interned on the private sector side and in public, and it fit for me. It was what I liked, and so I always knew I wanted to go that partner route. It was just a matter of how do I get there.
In any of your opinions, is there a specific trait or characteristic that you see in the partners, either in yourself or in the other partners in the firm that you work for?
You know, I think it's hard to think about one specific trait, but I definitely would have to say integrity. When I think about a partner at a CPA firm, it's really about integrity and wanting to do the right thing. That's a fundamental trait that I think you have to have as a partner. And then I think the other thing is to be a partner in a public accounting firm. I think given the fact that it's a service industry, you really have to have a desire to try to help other people. I think that's a really big important part about being a partner, is that you have to be motivated to help people. And I think that you'll find a lot of people that stay in public accounting through the duration of their career, part of the reasons why they'll tell you is because they just enjoy working with different people and finding ways to help find solutions. And I think that that's a lot of times a fundamental trait that I see in a lot of partners.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Chris said. I also think that there's a definite need for perseverance. You're going to be thrown a lot of obstacles, a lot of roadblocks, a lot of unexpecteds, and to focus and to go through and achieve your goals, I think requires a lot of perseverance. So I see that with the partners that I work with. And probably the other thing I would say is innovation, and especially as things seem to change so rapidly lately, the need to be able to step back and look at an outside of the box solution and come up with something that's different and be willing to take that risk and try that risk, whether it's for a client or for your own firm. I think that's really something that sets people apart at the partner level.
And I would say passion and drive. Passion for the work that they're doing, and drive to find the next thing, whether it's a next deal, a next business idea, a next revenue stream. There's the passion for what they do, but also the drive to continue to move forward and not be afraid to step out of the box and say, we've never really delved into that area before, whatever that might be, whether it's what type of audit or even a development. They always take that step, and that is what you need in order to continue to make that organization move forward.
Do you have any advice for a young CPA coming up in their career on how to stand out from the crowd, and how to also, on the other hand, avoid taking on too much work? I know I myself sometimes cannot say no. I always continuously raise my hand and take on more clients and work longer and harder because I think that that's what I need to do. Is there any perspective from at your point in your career that you can maybe relieve me of some of that guilt for not taking on everything?
I think one of the best things you can do as you're coming up in your career is be a great communicator. I think where people really stumble, both in their client interactions as well as their interactions internally with their teams and their partners, are they take things on and they try so hard to do everything, but they don't communicate with everybody about all of the things that they've got going on. So everybody sort of is in the dark and saying, well, why isn't John getting that project done? They don't realize, well, John has 15 projects with other people. Just being a good communicator gets everybody on the same page, and everybody, when you think about a public accounting firm, everybody should be rowing in the same direction. We're all successful only if each of us are successful in what we do. So we all want to see each other succeed, and you have to all be on the same page and work as a team to get there. So communication is the top priority to me.
I think you're sitting on a panel of yes people, so I don't know how good we'll be at giving you advice on how to say no, but I mean, I agree with what Chris said. At my firm, we have a rule that there's no such thing as over communication. It saves you so much headache and misunderstanding down the road. But I think it's important to decide who you want to be. I mean, there's going to be people that choose accounting and they want to just be the worker bee, and they want to come in and really cram down the hours. And then there's going to be other people that aren't so interested in all of that extra work and all those hours and a 12-month calendar year of busy season. And it's important, if you want to advance in either one of those paths, I think you need to understand that the most important thing is to provide value. And that doesn't always translate into taking on more clients. That could very well translate into maybe you're becoming more efficient and effective in something that you recommended to a client, or you've revamped a template that your office or your firm uses, and that's provided you with extra time, and it's helped the rest of the firm and other clients and other partners. So I think it's about more providing value and how does each individual do that, as opposed to I should just say yes to everything because that's what they want me to do, right? And I don't think that is clearly communicated to the younger generations of CPAs, that the answer isn't always just to say yes.
I like to always ask a question back when a new assignment comes in, and I know I have a lot that's on my list already. I'll say I'm very interested in doing this, but before I do, let's go over what I have on my plate now and how would you like that particular task to fit in what order. Let's prioritize this list so that, yes, I'll take it on, but is it going to be at the same priority that you need it done? And if it can't be, then maybe somebody else has to take on that task. So not that you're saying no and you're not saying yes and completely overburdening yourself. You're letting them know that, look, I want to do it. Let's prioritize, make sure that I can do it in the time frame you want it done. And I think that has really helped out a lot, because it also brings to light other people who may have the capacity to be able to do something, or the expertise. Say, oh, well, someone else did this, and, you know, or maybe something will be taken off my plate so that that can be put in there.
I think it's important too, if you work for a firm or a company and you have a career path, or you have a mentor and you have clear defined goals, how does an assignment either fit into helping you achieve those goals, or how does it detract from it? So, you know, it might just be about shaking up what's on your plate and committing to something that's going to really help propel you forward, and that's really the ultimate benefit for you. And I would just look at every individual assignment and opportunity and task that way.
And leading off of that question, do you have any tips or tricks for stress management, time management? How do you actually budget your time and get all your work done and move up in the firm?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's in many ways the key to success in public accounting is stress management and time management. And I do a lot of different things. I think that they're kind of interlinked. So a couple things that I do. First is every Sunday night I pop open my laptop and I just spend an hour or so, you know, email off, just looking at my calendar and really thinking about what I'm doing for the week. And it's really all just about compartmentalizing what you have and what you have to do. And it really helps me just reduce my stress levels, because it helps me, you know, not feel overwhelmed with my task list. That's one of the most important things that I do on a weekly basis, and it really helps. I think going through and making sure that every email is responded to timely also helps, because it reduces fires coming back to you, right? One thing that I did when I was coming up in my career that when I look back was actually a great idea was unsolicited. I kept a running to-do list of every single thing I was working on, and I shared it with every person that I was working with. And they never asked for it. I just sent it every Friday at 4 o'clock. Here's my list for next week. And it really it helped. Again, it comes back to communication, right? It really helps set expectations. And in those times when you actually have raised your hand too much, and sometimes you don't realize that you've raised your hand too much, when you're sharing a to-do list and you're really diligent about it, other people will start to recognize it and say, wait a second, you know what? Maybe we need to address some things on this list. So those were probably some of the most effective things that I did.
I'm writing that down to take back with me. Thank you.
I think, you know, when you talk about stress relief, it's important to make time for yourself, and whatever it happens to be, whether you like to run, or you like to get massages, or you like to, you know, go out to eat, you know, you like to travel. I think that you need to add yourself to your to-do list, which is, I don't think, something that we're innately taught to do or feel comfortable doing. I know the panel, and I don't think that most of us are very selfish, so we tend to put everyone else in front of ourselves. And I think it's really important to, like I said, add yourself to your to-do list, even if it's an hour a day, something to make sure that you can take that break and give yourself that relief, and it doesn't just continue to be a downward spiral of neglecting yourself. And a lot of it too, to circle back to culture within your organization, how much does your culture support you taking time for yourself? Again, whether it's a work from home option, or, you know, a flex every Friday off option, something like that, you know, pairing yourself with an organization that supports, you know, a less stressed environment, or at least alternatives to stress.
Okay, so kind of piggybacking off that topic, one of the biggest questions that we receive from CPAs just starting out their career is, how do I maintain work-life balance? So we're actually going to take a look at this video coming up from other young CPAs to show you how they maintain their work-life balance.
I think finding the balance for myself was easier just because I keep myself disciplined. So in the sense that I know what work needs to get done, I can get that work done, and then I know that once that's off my mind, I can enjoy other things.
In public accounting, number one priority is client service. So you know you have your clients, you have to meet their deadlines, you have to meet their needs. And you can do that not in the traditional 9 to 5 or 7 to midnight hours. You don't have to work those hours just to get their needs done. You have a team around you. You have a lot of support around you. So you don't have to be on call 24/7.
Busy season is rough. We work a lot during busy season, but outside of busy season, I wouldn't even call it a 9 to 5 anymore. We have flexibility to work the hours we want. I'm a morning bird. I come in the office at 7 and I leave by 3 a lot in the summer. If you want to take off on Friday, you can work on Sunday or Saturday. It depends where you're working and who you're working with, but we have a lot of flexibility now.
In the back of your head, you got to know that if you're working like a dog 24/7, you're going to drain yourself and you're going to be at the end of business and you're going to be done. But if you're able to step back a little bit and maybe do something, it doesn't have to be an hour long, maybe 10, 20 minutes. Watch a video on YouTube, go work out for a little bit. Work might be a bigger part of the balancing act, but it's also finding those smaller parts to help you out.
Although I'm on a ferry 4 days a week, coming here, it takes me almost 2 hours to get here and to get home. I have the freedom to leave at whatever time is best for me. If I have a date night with my fiance, or if I have girls' night, or if I have volleyball to get to, you need to leave work to make that happen. And I think it really makes it worth it, doing something that you love, knowing that there is that flexibility and you're afforded that opportunity to kind of make it work with whatever life you're living.
I really have a great lifestyle. I really do feel like I can work hard, meet all of my clients' needs, and I still have an amazing personal life. I consider an amazing personal life. So, I have my husband, I have my puppy, I have my first child on the way. So my firm is super supportive of everything that I can do. So you really can have it both ways. You can have public accounting and still have whatever you want in your life.
Welcome back. So now that we've seen that video, I wanted to ask your opinion. How do we maintain some work-life balance?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting question because it's probably the question that people talk the most about when they're moving through their career, especially when they're going through life-changing events as well, like getting married, having kids, moving into your own place, whatever it may be. I actually think work-life balance is sort of a misnomer. I look at it and think that we shouldn't really look to strive to strike work-life balance as much as I look to strive work-life integration. So my work doesn't really start and stop between 9 and 5, and my personal life doesn't start and stop between 9 and 5. So I think, to me, what I try to do is perfect the idea of I never have to sacrifice personal life, and I never have to sacrifice work life. And sometimes I work at night and have personal stuff during the day. Sometimes I work during the day and have personal stuff at night. As a partner in my firm, I can tell you I have never missed. I have 2 girls. I've never missed a single play, dance recital, important doctor's visit for work. That for me is unacceptable. But that means that my work life doesn't live in the box of 9 to 5. And I think there's no problem with that, and I think that we live in a world with enough technology to allow that to happen. Working from home should be, something that's easy and effective and efficient. For me, I'll tell you all the time, my office most of the time is Starbucks. I'm not really in my own office all that often. So, I joke that, I have 147 offices. They're all in Manhattan. They're all called Starbucks. So to me, that's the way I kind of look at it.
I think, Chris, you and I are fortunate enough to be partners, so I think there's a perception that maybe we have it a little bit easier or a little bit more freedom to do exactly what you talked about, because I'm the same way. I was working at 10:30 last night, but some days maybe I don't start until 10 because there's something related to the kids in the morning. So it all balances out for us. I think if you're talking about somebody who may be at the manager or the supervisor level and doesn't feel that they have the freedom to do some of the things like that. I go back to making sure that you're the right match for your organization. So if your organization doesn't promote flex time or work from home, and those are the things that I know at my firm we offer to help meet the work-life balance expectations that the team has, then maybe you're not with the right organization, and you should talk to your mentor or talk to your manager or your partner that you work for and try to get an understanding of what is allowed within the organization that you're with right now. And again, to have a work from home option, to have alternative hours, to have maybe you only work until 12 on a Friday. I mean, there's a lot of options, and thank God technology has allowed us to be able to work from Starbucks or wherever, the front seat of our car if we have to. And I'm sure we've all done that. And you need to be able to just work it and integrate it into your life and weave it in. So at the end of the week, you may not have worked 9 to 5, but you've met all the hours and all your obligations, and you didn't make anyone mad at home.
For me, a lot of things are project-based, so our timelines are extremely flexible. Other times there are times where there is a tight deadline. I've been very fortunate, especially with this last company that I've been with for a long time, where family life is more important. If there's an issue, you have to be there for your family, and then make up the work, but I can make it up at home. I have the ability to work from home, so it's not an issue. For me, the work-home life isn't so much as a balance as it's more of the integration. If I need to do something during the day, you need to be able to figure out, can I get away just to make that phone call quick to make sure everybody's okay, or I have to leave. I leave, but I can either bring something with me. I think technology has really opened those doors to allow more people to be able to have the flex time with their family. So, and it's a different struggle. When you first come out of school, you may not have family obligations, but you have other obligations, maybe more social or what have you. They're still important too. You need to have that aspect. And then when you do have a family, there's, or a house, and you have those obligations that run along with that. They shouldn't only be on the weekend. You should be able to have the opportunity to do them when you need to.
So we're going to take a quick question from the audience. If you're someone who's been struggling at your firm, you've been working there for quite a while, and you want to advance in your career, but you need some support from management, do you have any guidelines as to how you should go about advancing and getting upper management to get involved in your situation?
Yeah, I think that's really all about having honest conversations, right? In a public accounting firm, again, in order to move the rock forward, you want everybody to advance, because advancement provides opportunity for everybody ahead of you and behind you. So if you feel like you're ready to advance, but you're having trouble getting there, it's really about identifying who are the key players that are the people that are making those decisions, and understanding from them in a very honest and candid way what those roadblocks are, what the things are, what are the things that need to happen in order to get you there. And if they're doing the right thing for you, they'll give you that honest feedback. And to me, that's the most important piece.
Yeah, in public accounting, I'm pretty sure that everyone at least gets annual reviews. I would hope that happens. And so you need to understand what goals you need to meet and what metrics you need to hit to get to that next level. Find a mentor in your organization, outside your organization, in industry, in the same field, someone that can give you guidance and support. But really it's about, and I said this earlier, providing value back to your clients or your organization, the firm, whatever it happens to be, and make yourself so valuable that they really have no other choice but to promote you. There's a lot of negative characteristics and generalizations that go out now about the millennial generation, and not to start a generation war here, but I would challenge people to defy every bad stereotype that's out there about your generation, and you will naturally rise to the top. because you'll stand out that much more.
I think you have to understand what is expected. And if it's not clearly defined, I mean, it might be with your annual review, they might say, okay, to get to the next step, you have to do X, Y, Z. But in reality, there's more to it than just hitting just those certain items. And having that open conversation to say, what is it that I need to do in order for me to be able to be promoted? Is there something that I'm doing that's keeping me back? Or is there something that I'm not doing that's keeping me back? And you have to be open about it. If the partner doesn't think that you want to be promoted, you're not going to be promoted. If they don't know that you want to be promoted, you're not going to be promoted. So you have to be vocal and you have to let them know. Not a demanding, more of an inquisitive, what do I need to do? What is it going to take for me to get to the next step? And it has to be an open conversation.
Now, Sarah, you touched on this briefly a few times with having a mentor. Is there any advantage to having a mentor inside or outside of your organization? How do you start a relationship like that?
Well, my preference is to have a mentor outside of your organization. I probably would end up thinking that it's vitally important to have both, but I prefer to have one outside of the organization because I think that, now my organization, again, we're small, we're under 30 people, but someone needs to bring different perspective to you. And if you're within your organization, there's obviously politics everywhere, and there's things that you don't know about, and there's conversations that happen behind closed doors. And if you are using someone who's a complete third party as a mentor, they're just going to give you honest and open advice and guidance, and there's less of a trust issue, I think, and there's also more of a confidentiality and a confidence that you can have with somebody outside of your firm. And I also think that they're going to give you the most honest guidance because there's no agenda for them. So in other words, if you choose to have the manager or the partner inside your organization that you work primarily with to be your mentor, maybe that organization isn't the right fit for you, but it's not in their best interest maybe to exit you. So I just think that there's too much of a conflict if your main focus is a mentor inside your firm.
Attending CPA events that the New Jersey Society puts on, there's a lot of different areas and opportunities, whether it's a CPE, whether it's a social event, to meet different people, be involved in your chapter, be involved in a committee, something that interests you, because then you know the people that you're in that committee with are also interested in that. And that's a great way to broaden who your sphere that you have of people that can influence you, and then possibly strike up that relationship where you can find somebody who, this person is a few years ahead of me. We have the same type of thought process or goals, and they can become a mentor for you. It can happen kind of on its own, and to the point where you start to really meet maybe on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be every week, every other month, once a quarter, something that, has that open conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good example of, you could ask that question and get 3 different people, get 3 different answers. I mean, I think for me, in the context of my career, I think that having somebody on the inside and somebody on the outside has been helpful for me. I've had mentors that were, not within my firm, and actually, only tangentially involved in the industry. Just people that I admired that I thought were good people to give me true objective advice about what I'm thinking about in my career. And then I do think that having a mentor inside the firm, for me, has been helpful because there are intangible things that will happen in a firm, and every firm is different, and understanding how to navigate that. And sometimes when you have somebody that you can talk to that has sort of direct understanding of the intricacies of your issue can be helpful if they are, impartial and they're doing the right thing and giving you truly impartial advice. But, I think the most foundational thing is it's somebody, whether it's in or outside, that you trust, that you believe is going to give you objective, true, honest advice. That's probably the best thing, and sometimes that's going to be inside, sometimes it'll be out.
I have a former boss who I use a lot, who he's moved on in his career, but he worked with me, knows my work ethic, and I've always admired his work ethic, and that has helped a lot too. So if there was somebody that you worked with previously and they've moved on and they're successful, that's another good avenue. You never actually know what might come out of that relationship besides just being a mentor. So
yeah, I mean, my mentor, I used to work with him. He's actually a partner with Chris right now. So, I mean, that was the one that worked the best for me. But I also find, I wouldn't call it a full mentorship role, but I get a lot of great advice and support from my clients who, you know, in my role, they're business owners, they're running their own businesses, they're entrepreneurial, and we bounce a lot of things off of each other together, and that's another place that you could potentially look for guidance.
Now, Mike, you touched on this briefly, but you're all members, active members of the state society, NJCPA. How do you think that's helped you advance your career, and what kind of activities can you get involved in order to help advance your career?
Well, it was a long time ago when I joined the society, and I got a paper form that had some list of things that would you be interested in, and I checked off real estate, and I sent the form in.
They still have that. It's
and
electronic now.
Right. In Volunteer Relation Committee, you can, webpage, you can fill out your interest profile form. But I got a call probably 2 months later and saying it was an invite to a Monmouth Ocean chapter meeting. I went to the chapter meeting, and the person who was the president at the time said, "Oh, you're the person that said you were interested in real estate. How would you like to be the chair of the committee?" That was the first time I had been to a meeting. And I can tell you to this day, Monmouth is very, they like to bring people in and get them immediately involved. It may not be immediately a chair of a committee, but you're going to be assigned to a committee so that you can start getting involved. Through that, I was able to move up the chapter ranks. I learned a lot about the organization of the chapter, but also of the CPA society itself, and seeing all the different people that they met, sponsors. So now it's not just you're not just meeting other accountants, you're meeting other business owners as well, and it really lots of different age levels, and the experience that could be in a room that for people who are taking a CPE is tremendous. I mean, and that to me helped me start the process of getting more involved, and then I started getting involved in the state, and I've met wonderful people, and it's a stress reliever for me. It's something that I can say, okay, I know I'm going to a place where other people are experiencing the same thing I'm experiencing, and you can bounce things off a little bit and blow off a little steam, but at the same time then you get back to a task, whatever that task is at hand for the society, and it's there's a lot of gratification, by getting certain tasks done for a big organization like this.
I mean, I got involved back in the day when I won a scholarship, and I wanted to give back to the society for what they had given me, and that was really how I initially started. But I think that there are skills that you don't necessarily come out of school learning. They call them the soft skills, and I think that that's really what you get the most out of when you're in your younger part of your career from being involved in the society. So relationships, right? I mean, we all deal with numbers, but at the end of the day, really we're people to people, we're relationships. That's how we get business, that's how we work with our staff, that's how we work with each other, and you don't necessarily come out of college knowing how to work relationships the right way, but you can learn that and troubleshoot that through interactions at the society. Again, whether it's just attending a meeting, whether it's having a conversation with a total stranger that you sat next to at a CPE, whether it's deciding that you want to chair or sub-chair or co-chair or vice chair a committee or a chapter or anything like that. It gives you the confidence that you've mastered relationships. It gives you confidence in who you are. It gives you opportunities to be on this panel, as an example, to promote other things. I did a PAC video a couple years ago. I never thought that I would do that. So that was an interesting experience. I mean, it just gives you things that you probably would never even think about. And you're not necessarily going to get just working in a firm or working in a company. So it just diversifies the skill sets that I think you can have.
Yeah, I think you made a great point in that when I think about the NJCPA, I think about community, right? We're all accountants. We're all doing different things. I mean, what you do and what I do are two very different things. But foundationally, we're in the accounting community.
We speak the same language.
We speak the same language, and oftentimes have the same issues, whether they're professional issues or personal issues, or the struggles of work-life balance or technical or getting promoted. We all go through that same process in different places. So I think that getting us all together in one community can be incredibly powerful.
On that note, how important do you think networking is for your career, and what kind of activities do you participate, whether it's through the State Society or perhaps through other business associations?
I mean, I think networking is incredibly important. It serves a wide variety of purposes. In public accounting, at some point in time, business development is an important thing. And I think that, especially early in your career, the best thing you can do is a lot of networking just to grow your network, grow the people that know you and the people that you know. One of the best things that I did was going up into my career was just planting a lot of seeds early on. I wanted to know a good attorney. I wanted to know a good HR person. I wanted to know good people in different disciplines. And it allowed me to pay it forward to my clients. And I was always looking for a way to help them. And that ultimately always comes back to you. So I think networking is something that you have to start very early. You want to try to develop good relationships with people at your level, so that as you grow and they grow, you guys can become more relevant to each other. That would probably be the most important thing, I'd say.
Absolutely. I think you need to start it in college as much as possible with your professors. Very often they're adjuncts and they have real lives outside of teaching in colleges, and that could be something that's levied later. Business development, it's absolutely important to know people and get in front of people and be able to leverage those relationships. There's a book out there called Net Weaving as opposed to networking, and really the concept about it is just introducing people to other people that can help each other. And Chris touched on this earlier, that really that's what the partners in your world need to want to do. You want to be able to help people, and a successful way to do that is putting two people together. You know, you're not going to be able to solve every problem. I can't go out to every client and fix everything in their world, but I sure as heck better know somebody who can and make that introduction, and it makes you look valuable because you made that introduction. It solves the problem for your client or whomever it might be. And I think that very often people think about networking solely as a business development process, and it is used for that and it's important for that, but look at it globally and look at it from the standpoint of net weaving and it really being just introducing people and putting people together and getting people to help somebody. Talk to people about who do you want to know, or who can I introduce you to, and just look at it from a different perspective of what am I going to get out of this event versus what can I give to these people, because I'm a big believer in what you put out you get back, and there's no better time to start that mentality and that belief and practice than in college.
One area for people who aren't comfortable doing it is going to CPE and just sitting down and speaking to the person next to you, or getting involved, like I said earlier, in the society. Once I got to the state level, it wasn't a region anymore. It was a much bigger platform, because now I'm meeting people from all over the state. Another thing, it may sound silly, but if you go to a function and they have vendors, whether it's a trade show or whatever it may be, those people are there to talk to you. Don't be afraid to talk to them. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what you're going to say or they're going to say that says, oh, wait a second, you know what? I know somebody who needs that filled, and then you can do your net weaving at that point in time. Or, and you just, you know, I try and jot down a little something about the person I've met on a card, you know, whether it's their specialty, whatever it might be. But don't be afraid to talk to those people. If nothing else, it's good practice to just talk to somebody you never met before. And, you know, any trade show, that's what they're there for. So you try to take those opportunities when you can.
I think networking as well one thing to think about is it doesn't start and stop at events. You know, actually the most effective networking I do is oftentimes at, you know, somebody's first birthday party, right? It happens in the most unusual places.
Soccer field.
On the side of a soccer field. I swear, I think more
Absolutely.
great networking happens on the side of a soccer field than in any actual event. And I think the message there is that it doesn't start and stop at events. I think it's about exactly what you said. It's about developing relationships and weaving together what those relationships mean. And a lot of times relationships happen in informal settings where it's not necessarily a structured place. So think about it in that way. I mean, your network is not at networking events. Your network are the people that you know, which could be anybody.
Okay, one of the last topics that we can touch on is, since this webcast is aimed at those of us in the 6 to 10 year range, a lot of us are being newly promoted to first-time supervisory or management roles. Do you have any tips or techniques and just advice that you wish you knew when you were back then newly promoted?
Yeah, I think always trying to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you're working with. I think it's often easy to forget when you're that supervisor or you're now that manager. It's easy to forget what it was like to sit in the chair of a brand new staff level one, and you're getting hit with a lot of different things. There's a whole bunch of different responsibilities that you're going to encounter as a supervisor or a senior or a manager that you know you've never encountered before and you've got to digest. But remember that your team, you're only as good as your team is, and you've got to have a lot of empathy for where they sit, and it's often hard to remember that, but you just got to try to remind yourself.
Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of emotional intelligence, which is all about how do you deal with people, what's the best way to deliver things, understanding how people learn and how they interact with each other. I think that's really important. So if you've not had any sort of education, just grab a book on emotional intelligence and, you know, try to really practice it, and I think it's going to be really eye-opening for you. But also, you know, when you move to the next level, it's important to make sure that you're doing that level work. So if you just got promoted to supervisor or a manager, you shouldn't be doing something that somebody on your team is more appropriately leveled to do. You got moved up for a reason. They saw something in you. You excelled above and beyond where you currently were, and you need to now shed whatever previous level work you were doing and move up into the next realm and provide different value and more value. And I think very often we get a new business card and we get a new title and our signature block changes in our email, but our work doesn't really change. You know, we still go out with the same team on the same audit, or, you know, we're working on the same thing. You need to be able to change the work that you're doing and accelerate that to the next level with your new promotion.
And don't be afraid, somebody else has already been there before you. So you can be open enough to ask the right questions if there's something you're struggling with in your new role. And you know, you're not the first person there. So just have that confidence knowing that somebody else has been able to do it, I should be able to do it too.
Okay, so I think that's about all the time we have. So I just wanted to say thank you to Chris, Sarah, and Mike for joining us and for you as well for joining us on today's webcast. Hope you had a good time. Have a good day.